Alan Shearer, a name that once echoed through stadiums like a war cry, a name that defenders feared and fans worshipped. But behind the legendary celebrations and the Premier League records lies a story far darker than most people ever hear. Because Alan Shearer wasn't just a goal-scoring machine, he was a man constantly surrounded by storms, from on-field fury to off-screen firestorms. And tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on the moments he wished the world would forget, before he became the voice of authority on television. Shearer built his career on raw aggression, ruthless finishing, and a temper that could ignite at any second. From elbow clashes that sparked nationwide debates to confrontations with opponents that left fans stunned, his playing career was never just about goals. It was about power, pressure, and controversy. Every record he broke came with a shadow trailing behind it, and as the boots came off and the microphone switched on, the controversies didn't fade, they evolved. Suddenly, Shearer wasn't battling defenders. He was battling opinions, headlines, fans, and fellow pundits. His sharp criticism, his bold statements, and his refusal to back down turned him from a national hero into one of the most divided figures in modern football media. Because today, Alan Shearer stands at the center of a new storm: accusations of bias, feuds with managers, clashes with players, and explosive pundit moments that leave the football world arguing long after the final whistle. And the question that echoes louder than ever is simple: how did a Premier League icon become the most controversial pundit in England? Tonight, we dive into the rise, the rage, the rivalries, and the recent controversies that shaped Alan Shearer's journey from football legend to the most debated voice in the sport. Brace yourself, because this isn't just a story about football. It's a story about power, legacy, and the price of speaking your mind. But to understand why Shearer's words can shake the football world today, you have to understand the man behind the calm stare. He's not just another pundit reading statistics off a screen. He's a competitor who never truly left the battlefield. Every debate he enters carries the intensity of a penalty kick in the dying seconds of a final. And when Shearer speaks, he speaks like a man who has lived through wars on the pitch. A man who refuses to soften the truth even when the backlash grows louder. And that backlash, it has never been stronger than it is now. Whether it's his fiery takes on struggling teams, his public disagreements with managers, or the way he dismantles certain players with a single sentence, Shearer has become a lightning rod for headlines. Fans accuse him of bias, critics call him too harsh, and rivals claim he has lost touch with the modern game. Yet through all the noise, Shearer stands firm, unmoved, unbroken. Because in his mind, controversy isn't a problem, it's a consequence of honesty. As the dust settled from the earlier controversies surrounding Shearer's outspoken punditry, it became clear that the football world had entered a phase where every word he spoke trembled with weight. His voice didn't drift into discussions, it dominated them. And as November arrived, bringing with it some of the most heated football moments of the season, Shearer once again found himself pulled toward the center of storms. He didn't start, but certainly didn't shy away from, and like always, he stepped straight into the fire with that signature calm intensity that only he could carry. The first clash erupted on November 9, 2025, when Liverpool traveled to the Etihad to face Manchester City. The atmosphere was electric, the stakes enormous, and the pressure suffocating. Liverpool fought hard, but City's dominance was clear as the match progressed. Yet the game's biggest talking point wasn't a goal or a mistake, it was the moment. Virgil van Dijk's equalizer was ruled out after a highly debated VAR review. The stadium crackled with disbelief, and before the world could form an opinion, Shearer had already locked onto the controversy like a predator sensing movement. When the replays began looping, most pundits hesitated, waiting for angles, explanations, or safer interpretations. But Shearer didn't need hesitation, he needed 10 seconds. He took one look at Andy Robertson's positioning, watched his movement, and immediately challenged the decision. His verdict landed like a thunderclap across social media. He's in an offside position, very close to the goalkeeper, but he doesn't impact him. The boldness with which he dissected the moment signaled something undeniable. Shearer wasn't here to play it safe. And when he described the decision as really poor, the football world split down the middle. Liverpool fans cheered him for exposing what they felt was an injustice. Manchester City fans dismissed him, saying he was clinging to a technicality. Rival pundits raised eyebrows, comment threads exploded, but regardless of where anyone stood, everyone tuned in because Shearer's voice wasn't the kind you ignored. It was the kind that reshaped conversations instantly. What turned his analysis into pure controversy, however, wasn't just the critique of VAR, it was what he said immediately after. Shearer, with total composure, stated that even with the goal allowed, Liverpool wouldn't have gotten anything from the match because Manchester City were clearly superior. The bluntness, the frankness, the unfiltered realism, all of it triggered another wave of reactions. It wasn't just a football opinion. It was the kind of statement that stabbed straight at the pride of an entire fan base. That as always, the backlash arrived like a tidal wave. Some accused Shearer of dismissiveness. Others praised him for refusing to sugarcoat reality. Analysts tried to reinterpret his comments, while fans turned his words into ammunition for arguments. But if Shearer felt the pressure, he never showed it. His calmness in the storm became his trademark, the eye of every football hurricane. And this was only the beginning, because November had much more controversy waiting for him. Just over a week later, Shearer found himself stepping into another high-profile debate, this time involving one of the most expensive young strikers in Premier League history, Benjamin Sesko. Manchester United had paid £74 million for him in the summer transfer window, hoping he would become the future of their attack. But with only 2 goals in 12 appearances, doubts began circulating. And Shearer, once again, didn't let hesitation soften his words. On November 17, 2025, Shearer publicly declared that Manchester United had paid too much for Sesko. It wasn't a light critique. It was a shot straight into the heart of United's recruitment strategy. He admitted openly that he didn't expect huge things from the young striker at this stage. A brutally honest take that cut through the hype and exposed the raw numbers behind the transfer. Like always, his words triggered immediate shockwaves. Manchester United fans reacted furiously, insisting Shearer lacked faith in young talent. Pundits debated whether he was being realistic or unnecessarily harsh. Commentators dissected every phrase he used, trying to find hidden nuance. But there was none. Shearer speaks plainly, directly, and without a layer of protective diplomacy. That's why people listen. That's why people argue. That's why his words matter more than most. What the world often misses is the source of his bluntness. Shearer is a man who reached the top through grit, willpower, and relentless standards. He wasn't just a goal scorer, he was a leader. And leaders don't exaggerate or sugarcoat, they judge using experience sharpened by pressure. His comments about Sesko weren't personal, they were the product of decades of footballing knowledge condensed into a brutally simple truth. But truth has consequences. And Shearer's truth always does. And as the Sesko debate continued raging online, Shearer found himself in the crosshairs of yet another controversy, this time not triggered by fans or a refereeing decision, but by someone sitting right beside him. Because in a landscape filled with cautious analysis, Shearer speaks with the conviction of someone who has nothing left to prove. As November's controversies fade into football history, one thing becomes clearer than ever. Shearer isn't just commenting on the game, he's shaping the storylines that define it. His words ripple through club discussions, fan arguments, and media debates. His presence controls the pace of conversations. And that's why he stands alone as the most influential, most dissected, and most unpredictable pundit in modern football. Everything he touches becomes a topic. Everything he says becomes a headline. Everything he reacts to becomes a spark. In the end, Shearer's impact goes beyond analysis. He's a force that pushes the football world to think harder, debate louder, and feel deeper. His authenticity is both a weapon and a shield, one that keeps him at the top of the pundit hierarchy. And so the storms continue, the debates intensify, and the controversies grow. But Shearer moves forward, step by step, with the same unshakable belief that carried him through his career. He doesn't avoid the fire, he walks into it. Because that is Alan Shearer, the legend, the voice, the storm, the most controversial pundit of his generation. As Shearer moved through the later chapters of his broadcasting career, the past had already shown how often his name became a lightning rod for debates, disagreements, and headline-making moments. But in September 2025, another ripple arrived that instantly joined the list of previous incidents surrounding his public life. This time it wasn't about something Shearer had said or done, but rather the way his name was unexpectedly pulled into a clash between 2 of his old colleagues. When Gary Lineker publicly accused rival podcast host Roy Keane of trying to get a bit of PR with what he described as nasty jibes at Shearer, the story shook the football media landscape once again. Keane's comments, sharp, personal, and unfiltered, spread across social platforms within hours, sparking debates from pundit desks to pub conversations. Lineker's defense of Shearer painted a clear picture. He wasn't going to sit quietly while someone took cheap shots at one of the game's most respected figures. And although Shearer stayed silent, his presence loomed over the situation. The football world watched as others fought the battle on his behalf, a reminder that even years into retirement, his name still carried enough weight to ignite controversy without him ever speaking a word. It joined the long list of past flashpoints that shaped how the media portrayed him, moments where Shearer became central, even when he wasn't the one throwing the punches. That wasn't an opinion, that was a statement, a moment that showed what kind of man he truly is, fearless, loyal, and unshakably human beneath the punditry armor. And that is the paradox of Alan Shearer. He divides and unites, he frustrates and inspires. He creates headlines and then ignores them. He is criticized, defended, debated, but always watched. Because whether you agree with him or not, one thing remains true. Alan Shearer never hides. Not on the pitch. Not behind the microphone. Not in the face of controversy. His voice has been powerful, flawed, compassionate, brutal, everything a true pundit should be. And maybe that's why his legacy burns brighter than any argument he's ever started. So as we close this chapter, remember this. Shearer's story isn't just about controversy. It's about standing firm when others fold. It's about speaking up when silence would be easier. It's about playing the game, whether football or media, with the same intensity, honesty, and fire he carried his entire life. That's why he remains a figure people talk about, argue over, defend passionately, or challenge fearlessly, because he is not just a legend of football. He is a voice carved out of experience, courage, and total refusal to be anything less than himself. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the life and controversies of one of football's most powerful voices, then make sure you subscribe to the channel. Drop a like and comment below about which football personality you want us to uncover next. This is only the beginning, and trust me, the next story will be even bigger.